How's my hair? Is it terrible? Yes, perfect. Hey everybody, it's Dave with No Chaser, and today's topic is about the difficult and curious pursuit of happiness that comes with early recovery. Let's say you're newly clean sober, maybe not so much newly, not just a couple days here, but you put together weeks, months, and some days you barely survived, or maybe it's been smooth sailing, and you've been making the changes, you've been doing the damn thing, and now it's time for just a little fun. How about we get some fruits of our labor, so to speak? Not just doing the big boy responsible thing, being hashtag adulting or whatever, but you've really put in work, and now, I mean, why else get clean and sober if not to enjoy and embrace life and be present for it? So you got something lined up. You got a movie you've been really wanting to see, or maybe a date with the significant other at your favorite restaurant, maybe a mini vacation of some sort, or an actual vacation, or some holiday that's not too triggering. You really want to enjoy, just something you're super looking forward to. You do it, and you're like, "Wow, I feel nothing." I mean, and this is something I'm being jokey here in a sense, but it's not really a joke. This is something that I've been through a lot in my life and travels, and it just because I'm aware that it occurs doesn't mean it gets any easier. Now, if you want to know who to blame science for this. Blame the darn brain for not healing immediately like you wanted to, because yeah, prolonged drug and alcohol use has really taken its toll. It's certainly warped things up there. Like, just kind of an earthquake in a room. It just shook and everything kind of out of order. And, really it's been like used to these huge spikes of dopamine. Because, now in this early recovery phase, you don't have a problem with dope. You have a problem with dopamine. And it's hard because that adjustment period is you've had these huge spikes, right? And you're not asking for the huge spikes anymore. Like, I get it, life in moderation of some sort of whatever. But you're asking for something. But the problem is that when there's the expectation of the dopamine to, the squishy happiness chemicals to appear, your brain's almost kind of like, hey, didn't we have a guy for that? And the guy, drugs and alcohol, has left the building. Didn't even put in his 2 weeks. And so now it's this kind of scrambling of how there's like pleasure and attached to the things you do. I mean, there's gonna be other struggles here. Like a lot of things you did that you enjoy, you did while drinking and using. So now it's kind of soiled that, or just this sort of feeling of lack of connection to things. Just food is just whatever. Music is just words. Movies is just images on a screen. Everything is just kind of like iceberg lettuce, just sort of plain and boring, and it's sort of real intense boring at times. And there's a lot of times I would ask myself this question. I'd be like, self, why are we really bored? Are we bored because we are actually finding these things uninteresting, or are we bored because all we want to do is drink and use, and the activity we have planned is not that? But what I'm talking about is the actual case of just not finding interest in things. And there's a term for it, anhedonia, where we're not just talking about everyday living. We're talking about things you enjoy that are not enjoyable. Because, getting clean and sober, you're preparing for a lot. There's going to be the cravings, the obsession, the temptations, the stress, the wave of these emotions that may have been held back, or you're just feeling like a person anymore. There's no more numbing. And then just the stressors of life. And probably, if you're getting clean and sober, your life wasn't in tip-top shape. So there's all that stuff going on. And you're just like, can I just get a little satisfaction of something? And the brain's like, maybe, or maybe not. A personal anecdote. I remember, I was clean and sober, and I had this sort of, I had some time off work, and I had this trip out into nature, out into a national park, one I always wanted to go to. Sequoia National Park with the big trees and everything. Just truly a bucket list thing. And I felt this almost sense of guilt because I was there. And I'm like, yes, this is what I've always wanted to do. This is my jam, if there ever was one. And there was a lot of times during it where I was just like, whatever. And I started again, that sort of guilt, or this sort of like mini self-hatred of like, what is wrong with you, dude? Like, get it together. Enjoy stuff. Really? We're not going to enjoy things anymore because you're clean and sober? And, obviously big thing to point out here is this is the healing process. So this is not your forever state, although it can feel like that. And, it's something that needs to be acknowledged. And another thing is that what it's very likely to be a part of is pause. Not a little doggy pause, but post-acute withdrawal symptom or syndrome. Weirdly, that's interchangeable. But, it's your brain has done the real acute sort of physical detox of the chemicals, withdrawals, kind of expunging them, purging yourself of all the nasty sort of toxins. But your brain is still in this sort of phase of regulating. I don't know what the case of you may be watching this here. Maybe you didn't even do drugs and alcohol. You're just curious. But if you have been for a prolonged amount of time, years maybe, or, this is following a relapse where you went out there for months and hit it hard, as one does. And I can't stress this enough, this sort of healing process of the brain is not something that just snaps back into place. And these are things I would be conceptually aware of. I'm like, dude, I get it. The brain is just not, you're not just going to dust this thing off and plunk it right back in and we're all good to go. It's going to be a process. But living that process is, it's difficult. So, one thing that I've kind of learned over my life is that one thing that I know what can possibly help me through this phase, and just help me in my life in general, is that maybe we need a sort of shift in priorities. The idea of the pursuit of happiness, trying to be happy, is something I've been doing for a long time, and I'm not very good at it. And that so much of my happiness has been equated with chemicals or the feelings that chemicals would give me, and almost to the point where I would, even clean and sober, I'd start pursuing things that were, giving me feelings like being high. When people are just like, it was like a high, I'd be like, it is, let me try it. And so this idea was a shift in sort of my direction of maybe right now, or for a good while, this is not about happiness. Maybe life needs to be about meaning and purpose, which can bring happiness, but it's not quite that. And this sort of new phase where the brain is healing, there's a lot of times too where just things don't feel meaningful. Again, you feel sometimes even a lack of connection to people or things, places, just, stuff that you think would touch the soul, and it's not really doing that. But in that pursuit of sort of something meaningful, something fulfilling, and not just with enjoyment, that can, I don't know, that has been able to help me in the past, and that's kind of what I'm doing now. I've just kind of come to this sort of sense of David, chasing happiness, we can't be doing that. I won't say anymore. And obviously you need to have fun, you need to have pleasure, and you need to enjoy stuff. But right now, my brain is still, whether I like to admit it or not, still in a mode of chasing the feel good, the feely goodies. And right now, we don't even know where to handle that, or rather how to handle it. That's usually for me is one-way ticket to cross addiction town, where I'm the mayor somehow. And it's again this shift of and this is where it comes into a healthy way of stepping out of oneself, being of service to others, helping other people, getting out of just one important thing for me is just getting out of my own mind. And again, not this sort of, this chase, even if I'm clean and sober, I could still feel at times this sort of chase of happiness. And, I'm bad with it. Like I said, not only am I bad in the chase, I'm bad with handling it. Sometimes it feels like when I get a sense of enjoyment, I try to hold on to it. And almost like of Mice and Men and Lenny with the bunnies, I just pet it to death. Or I just try to keep it and find some baking soda in a pan and make crack out of it so I can smoke the happiness because I don't want it to ever leave. And, for me, it's all right, let's just try a new route here if we can. What about something that is significant? We're not talking about enjoyment or pleasure, but we're talking about something meaningful. And that can be hard too, because right now, in the phase of rebuilding your life, there's a lot of things that are kind of in disarray, and you don't really get to take the reins maybe the way that you want to. But I mean, it's truly in the little things. And another thing, as far as the dealing with the brain not quite being there as far as producing the happy feel goods, is the practice of gratitude. Just really trying. And the thing is, it's easy to practice gratitude when you're all happy and in a good mood. You're like, dude, I love everything. I love birds. I love toilet paper. I love even my hair and the grays on my beard. Love it. Silver fox. Not really. But it is doing that practice when you are, psychologically speaking, super bummed. And again, you're having that anhedonia. You're having the post-acute withdrawal symptoms of this sort of like detachment from things, and you really have to look at a list that you write out and be like, I am happy for these things. I really need to be grateful for these things and appreciate these things, truly. And that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying my best right now. Still going on strong. Hope all of you are as well too. Got a bunch of links in the description I'll put here as far as the podcast, book, all that good stuff. You know what? If you're going through it, I wish you well. I wish you strength. If you're still stuck in the cycle of addiction, man, my heart goes out to you. I've certainly been there, and I'm not too far from being there. I always need to be vigilant of that, as where I'm at right now. And if you're just watching this because you were curious about it, well, thank you for watching. Other than that, be well.